All right. Hello, guys. I'm Counselor Jay, and this time I decided to try to step up my game and do a little bit more than just the basic screen capture. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Today is going to be specifically for seniors. I've been getting a lot of questions from seniors now that the applications have been pretty much completed. There's still a couple more deadlines, usually for public schools towards February 1st. But for the vast majority of students, you should be pretty much done at this point. So we're going to be left with this question. Let's go ahead and start it off. So you applied. Now what? First and foremost, I'd want to start by saying congratulations. I know that maybe you don't get enough credit for this and you're expected to apply for colleges, but that's not necessarily the case. We are in a privileged part of the world if we have the opportunity like we do to apply for these higher institutions. So, and it's not any easy feat. It's a tall order. So I want to start by saying congratulations. Good job on submitting your applications. Now from there, the question is, are we done? Are we there yet? Can I chill now? And potato students will be like this SpongeBob over here. Yeah, we Gucci. And I'm going to give you a heads up. You are not Gucci. Not yet, at least. So most students at this point will say they're Gucci and then they'll YOLO the rest of their time. TikTok, Netflix, video games, more TikTok, Blackpink, Blue Pink, BTS, GTS. I have no idea, guys. But you know what you kids are doing these days. Unless you've been accepted early decision, you are not done. Even if you're accepted early decision, see that asterisk right there? There's some concerns still that you have to make sure that you address. So I just want to start by saying, you know, a lot of students, biggest mistake they'll make is that they'll celebrate too early. So without further ado.
Come on, baby. Hey! Well, we didn't even get a... Oh!
展示他的实力来，一鼓作气，对，速度非常快。
好嘞，只用了25秒。
哇嘿！哇！
What the hell? Oh my god!
Come on, baby. Hey!
I think you guys get the idea, though. I always love that chap. Things you don't want to do. Let's just jump straight into it. Don't celebrate too early. You don't want to be like any of those guys on YouTube, okay, guys? You don't want to be giving everything up, cutting corners on your academics, dropping courses. I've been getting a lot of emails about, hey, Jade, do I still have to do this AP class? Can I just drop it? General rule of thumb, you don't want to be dropping courses. There are rare exceptions where you may be allowed to without a penalty, but for the vast majority of you guys, if you drop a course, it's usually not a good idea. At this point, some students get so lazy that they start cutting into their integrity. Obviously, I would never condone this ever, but for some students and for some people, I just have to make it very clear. Please don't be cutting corners, cheating, getting caught cheating, whatever it is. Just don't be a scummy potato. Some students will want to drop a lot of their activities. Not a good idea as well. They want to say, screw you, teacher, and I'm out of here kind of thing. And that's also not a good idea, guys. And last but not least, getting suspended or getting any kind of trouble, obviously a bad idea. Why not? Well, the reason why is because you could still be denied, even from your early acceptances. All acceptances are conditional. If you actually read the fine print of your acceptances, if you were lucky enough to be accepted early somewhere, there's going to be a conditional statement saying that you have to maintain the level of rigor or academic or activity rigor as what you applied for and got accepted as. And the second reason is a little lesser thought of at this point by senior students, and it's the fact that if you are waiting for regular applications, you can get waitlisted. And when you get waitlisted, it's kind of like being deferred. You're going to want to, through the waitlist process, be able to provide updates and show that you're continuing to put pedal to the metal rather than easing off on the gas. Pro tip, don't get suspended. Okay. Post-application timeline, I just want to kind of put a macro viewpoint on this. October to December were your early deadlines based on whether you had a portfolio early submission or not. Then you had January to February for most deadlines. The results for those are kind of listed underneath. Thing to note, I put in red, is the waitlist results. So what can happen in the results that come out for regulars, which will be March until May, is you could get accepted, waitlisted, or rejected. And when you get waitlisted, you essentially have to wait, and the results for you will come out after all the regular students make their decision. They see how many student spots are left over, and usually that shakes out to results that come out around June to August. So that's why letting off the gas is a bad idea, and it's because for the most of us, we are going to get waitlisted from some schools, and you never know if those some schools are schools you would rather go to if you got off the wait list. Then there were schools that accepted you right out in March. So May 1st is where you have the statement of intent to register. That's all the accepted schools. That's when you jot things down and start working on orientation, registration, financial aid if you applied. You'll start doing dorm room questions, and you'll start having to submit final transcripts and things of that nature. And so if you think about it, the colleges that waitlisted you won't reach out to you until after May 1st, once they got to shake down on how many extra spots they have left for the year. Post-submission application portals. So once you submit your application, whether early or regular, you at this point should get an application portal, and you need to check that regularly. I mean, like once a week at the very least. Before we do that, if you don't have an application portal, or you don't have an official email saying that you submitted, you might want to check if you actually submitted. It's rare, but occasionally I run into the super potato student that thought that he or she submitted, and then they're chilling, right? And then 2-3 weeks later, they check and it's like, oh my gosh, where's my portal? Where's my email address or email saying that I successfully submitted? And then it becomes a really bad news bears. But anyways, hopefully you have portals. You start checking them. The reason why is because in those portals, they'll be giving you notifications. They'll be giving you things like, hey, by the way, you forgot to submit this. Please submit this. Or, hey, we have this new form we need you to fill out. Please fill this out. And you don't want to miss those kinds of things, because missing those could in some cases can lead to your rejection when the results come out. So you want to be looking for that. You also want to be looking for opportunities to update, especially if you were deferred, and later on, especially when you get waitlisted. Most of the colleges, like if you were deferred, the update window tends to be around mid-January to mid-February. Some colleges will tell you, hey, you can send us updates for your deferred early application by this set time. Colleges that don't give you a deadline, my recommendation is that you probably want to send your final updates, deferred appeal letter, whatever you want to call it, by around mid-February, early February, to be safe. We'll go into detail of what that type of update should be. So if you were a student that got deferred or later on get waitlisted, and you really still want to give that school your all and your best shot, here are the things that you want to pay attention to. What are good updates? Activities that demonstrate further development or progress beyond the routine. Obviously, new awards, new achievements, new certifications, perhaps. Continued effort, showing that you are progressing and making new strides, tangible strides in perhaps your independent projects or portfolios. New actions. Maybe you ended up connecting with the city hall and you're doing this amazing new initiative for your community. It could also be something academic. Maybe you decided to publish a research that you did, and that published research then became something that went viral. Anything else that would constitute a strong activity update, I think, would be something you want to consider as an update to put into any kind of deferred or waitlist appeal letter. Obviously, this can kind of depend, the last two bullet points, on the restrictions that some schools will lay out. I think just in general, unless they say otherwise or they give you a separate section to write this aspect, the why college, I think including a final paragraph of a why college that's distinctive from any points you may have written for why college essays when you applied would be good to put in, as well as potential compelling recommendation letters. I'm not talking about a recommendation letter from your brother or your friend or your pet Fido. Sometimes it could be a vice principal or a principal who heard about your results and really wanted to vouch for you. In fact, those are the ones that seem really strong. I've seen a lot of those be really effective. So keeping your eye open for people who might be able to vouch for you some more in a semi-professional, professional kind of way. All good updates. What are potato updates? I've seen a lot of potato updates. Sending unimpressive updates, like I continued to take note of weekly attendance for my key club. Like things like that. Like, come on, guys. And then sending in materials that the colleges didn't want you to send. Hey, please don't send us any letter of recommendation. But then, like, you have your parents pushing you to say, send this from here, send this from there. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that, and that's a big no-no. It's kind of like you can't follow instructions. You know, that's a big red flag in my eyes. So. Also sending a Y college letter that's like exactly copy pasted from the essay that you wrote prior. I've seen that before too. I've seen some potato things in my time, guys. And then sending a desperate letter or a gimmicky attempt. So what I mean by a desperate letter is, oh my God, please let me in. You guys are my dream school. Or gimmicky attempts. Gimmicky attempts used to work like 10, 15 years ago. I remember the story of like, I think it was a Brown student, and then I think they colored their room brown to the color of the school mascot or whatever, and supposedly that worked. Maybe I'm mixing that up with an actual application, regular or early that they got accepted with. But regardless, gimmicky attempts, they're not really going to fly in this day and age. Besides updates, what else should I be doing? You want to be continuing to grind things out. You want to make sure your academics and activities are still in tip-top shape. You might want to start looking into your APs and IB exams. There's a little bit more nuance to this. Like if you figured out which colleges you're going to get accepted to and go to, sometimes there is a good argument to not have to take certain APs if you don't have to, and prioritize others for credit transfer. If you're interested in that, you can look up a college's AP credit transfer and you can see what that's all about. You also want to be looking into financial aid and scholarships. I think the Craigslist, kind of the bread and butter of scholarships these days, is scholarships.com. You could create a profile and you could start looking for the ones that you're eligible for. Quick note about that, by the way. Let's say you apply for financial aid and you received, I don't know, let's say $10,000. And if you then go to scholarships.com, you find a Samsung Write About the Future essay, and you win $1,000 from that. I want you to note that $1,000 you win from third-party scholarships will be deducted from any federal or state grant or public scholarships that you receive. So just be wary of that. I'm not a financial advisor, but that's something that I've seen in my years. And so just keep an eye open or do some more research into that if that's relevant to you. You want to also start looking for college freshman advice. You know, hopefully you've developed a pretty balanced college list. You have good safety. So whatever the results turn out to be, hopefully you'll be able to still snag one. And that's where you want to start thinking about the next steps in your life. College is really about high school all over again, except it's going to be much more consequential in my eyes. I think I have a separate slide for that later on. And then also to consider your summer, how you want to spend your summer. I'm getting a lot of questions about that from my students right now. So summer before college advice, spend more time investing in your hobbies, especially the kinds of hobbies you set aside. Let's say you didn't have enough time to pick up maybe animation or computer graphics or computer aided design. And now that you have a lot more time with the applications being done, this is the moment. This is the opportunity, and I would really encourage that. I'd also tell you to spend more time with family. Some of you guys might find that to be a little gross or something, and maybe when I was your age, I would be able to sympathize or completely understand. But one thing I remember hearing that really stuck to me, and I give this as advice to my students, is normally when you go from high school to college, that becomes the kind of cell splitting moment, cell division moment. Like you have this typical nuclear family, and when you start going to college, that's when you start to you spend less and less time meeting together for holidays or things of that nature. So spending putting aside time to do one big family vacation over the summer, highly recommend it. And as I mentioned earlier, you want to start looking into your college resources, college opportunities. If you know where you're going to get accepted to, or you received an acceptance, now's the time to go into the student organizations part of their website, or go to their career center and start looking into what kind of research opportunities you can potentially start early to join. Some of you might be needing to find a roommate, so looking for a roommate is really important. I remember I lucked out when I went to UCLA. I had roommates that were really awesome my first year. My second year, I thought I'd try my luck again, and it wasn't as lucky. So looking for a roommate might be a good idea. The way you would do that is, if you get accepted, there's usually these like social media groups, Facebook accepted 2022 students, and that's how you can start to kind of mingle online. Maybe Discord channels. Man, maybe it's not Facebook no more, right? Facebooks are for the boomers. I think like it's Discord and stuff these days. Consider grinding out a new skill. As I mentioned, I wanted to point out some of my favorites. There's edx.org. So good. You guys, this is like knowledge that's gold, and it's free. And so if you want to set aside some time to cultivate a little bit more of your intellectual interest, highly recommend going for that. On YouTube has MIT Open Courseware. Maybe you're interested in learning about blockchain technology or introductory fundamental courses in economics. MIT Courseware is also solid gold, as well as Skillshare. Read big brain books, watch big brain stuff. I'm a huge fan of Gates. Bill Gates is, I think every year he recommends the books he read and that he enjoyed most. So picking up one or two of those books, huge benefit throughout your life, in my opinion. A couple of other YouTube channels, the Royal Institution. They bring in a lot of professors that are kind of the apex of their field, Nobel Prize laureates. It's really intellectually stimulating. One of my favorites from Royal Institutions are about Tyrannosaurus Rex. I have no background in animal science or in archaeology, but sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes you just want to watch something that stimulates your mind, and Royal Institution tends to do that quite a bit for me, so highly recommend that. Also recommend, in a similar vein, Lex Friedman podcast. Think Joe Rogan. Maybe you guys don't know Joe Rogan, but think Joe Rogan, but more scientific, more academic in terms of his training and background. And so he brings in also a ton of great people, professors from MIT, leading pioneers in their industries. And so if you really want to put on your adult pants and get a head start, I think Lex Friedman is one way to do that. There's also practical engineering. It's just another thing with like the T-Rex thing. I have no interest or thought I had no interest in civil engineering and engineering until I started watching his videos, and I'm like, wow, okay, so that's how potholes are filled. Jeez, man, that's really interesting. Highly recommend it. Check that out. And then also the All In podcast. These are billionaires, I think. These are just 4 billionaires that decide once a week to opine about the news, and I think you get so much insight into this. Like if I had this level of insight when I was your guys' age, sheesh, man. And then last but not least, get a job. I have a pro tip at the bottom: don't be broke. So get a job. It's a life pro tip, guys. Don't be broke. But more importantly, learn to save and invest. I'd argue that the vast majority of us, we're aiming for these amazing colleges, and one of the most fundamental gaps in our education is financial education. I think that's a huge issue these days. I think your guys' generation are going to be the most indebted because of student loans. Student loans have been the student debt in the U.S. has been ballooning, and at the same time, if you guys are any level of aware of how housing prices have gone up and things of that nature, learning how to save and invest. There's this awesome YouTube video that I want you guys to watch. If you just looked up Peter Lynch, Learn to Earn, highly recommend it. Listen to it and thank me later when you guys are able to be financially, independent and at a much younger age than those who don't kind of start paying attention to this early. Compound interest, guys, man. Compound interest is huge. It's a big thing. It's super overpowered. Last but not least, I'd say probably reflect on your high school career. I don't think anyone can say that they went through high school and would have zero regrets. There's always something that you could have done better, something you could have learned from. And that isn't to say you should feel like you're a failure or anything. It's, you remember, life is about making mistakes, and not being a potato is about learning from those mistakes. Now that you are moving on from high school into the next phase in your life, you want to be setting the next set of goals. And each time you reach this type of juncture in your life, you want to be always setting higher and higher expectations, higher goals for yourself. And I think that begins by reflecting and looking at the things that you could have improved. As I mentioned earlier, college is just high school, but it's harder. You're going to have more temptations. You're going to have a lot more free time, independence, and with that comes control, self-control. With great power comes great responsibility, guys. And then also to look at what the college is how should I explain this? High school to college is college to grad school. So for a lot of you guys who want to make six figs and up in your life and go big places, nowadays the standard of that is going to graduate school. And so if you think about how you had to go through the grind of high school to then get into college, well, think of college as the same exact thing. Now you're spending 4 years in order to grind out the profile, the stats, the experiences to get into a good graduate school. And then I pulled this: work hard, work smart, push yourself, stay consistent, be patient, and most important of all, don't ever give up. I pulled this from as you can see, it's from a gymaholic thing. Hit the gym too, guys. Hey, it's good for your health and wouldn't hurt for your social life. I gotta be honest, But yeah, I think it's not about where you are now. It's about whether you can pick yourself up, whether you can learn from your mistakes and exert the discipline to reach higher. And so with that, I think I'm at the end of what I wanted to say. I'm going to try my best to hopefully make more of these kinds of videos. Again, I'm trying to stick to maybe a Monday's release kind of thing. And if you guys like where I'm headed, if you guys have any feedback or anything like that, I'm going to figure out how to do the whole comment section and perhaps a Discord channel for you young ones. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your time. And this was Counselor Jay, and I wish you guys all good luck.